Hi there, we're coming to you today from Switzerland and the USA via the power of Zoom. I'm Cass Grafton and I am interviewing author L.L. Diamond, or Leslie as she's known to me, for the Austen Through the Ages feature. And Leslie and I actually do know each other in real life, even though we're a long way apart, because we've met a few times in the UK because Leslie used to live there. So we managed to cross paths at a few Austen events and share an awful lot of rosé wine and giggles. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm here with a list of questions for Leslie. Hi, Kat.
Sorry. I have two that are playing. We'll see. Hopefully they don't do too much crazy during the interview.
Okay, this is something that I think I know the answer to, but I'm not sure.
Uh-oh.
And it's, were you a Jaff reader before you were a writer, or did you just decide from from having read Austen's books that you felt like you wanted to write a story?
No, I was a reader. Oh gosh. I think the first Jaff I picked up, my son was 1.5 years. I had taken a trip to Kentucky to visit my sister, and I happened upon one when a lot of authors were source books, published by source books. I found one in Target. And I was buying through Amazon like crazy because I didn't do Kindle, so I was buying paperbacks, which of course print on demand is kind of high. Until my husband looked at me and said, "You've got to find something else." And I searched around and found the fan boards and absolutely went ape. Like just read everything I could find, starting with Regency, and then hit other era and modern. And I had an idea. Happy Assembly had a chat room, and I was in there with a couple of friends, and I had an idea for a story, and I tried to give it away, and they refused to take it and told me to write it because everybody's in there had started out reading and started writing for the most part, and they were like, "No, you write it." And then I wrote something completely different that turned out to be Rain and Retribution. But I had been reading for I think 2 years before I started writing.
Right. Yeah, I started reading online before I even came across any published books. I think when I first started reading online, there weren't any actual published books. Right. But yeah, I mean, I couldn't devour it fast enough. I mean, it was just, story after story.
Like, I think I started, I think on A Happy Assembly, and like then I found like Firthness and Pen and Ink and like devoured all of that one thing at a time. And unfortunately, some of the boards are still there and some of them aren't. But some of them we're starting to see published now, which is nice because you get that permanent copy of it. But
yeah, and you have got an extensive catalogue of titles. I mean, you have got a lot of books out there, and as we're doing this Austen Through the Ages across different eras. So what do you prefer? Do you prefer the more traditional Regency Jaff to write, this is not to read but to write, or do you prefer the contemporary? Because they both present different challenges, don't they?
They do. It's a fluctuation. I had started out writing, of course, the first Regency, and then I wrote A Matter of Chance as kind of just this, okay, I've written a Regency, I want to see what it's like to write a modern. And so I wrote that, and then I went back to Regency for a bit, and I stuck with it, but I kind of feel like I get into this hole if I stick into one too long, because I will get ideas for moderns that start churning, and even though I'm writing a Regency, it will stick. And so I feel like I'm trying to force what I'm writing, and I got into that, and in some ways trying to vary what I write came up with, like, because I had, of course, an Unwavering Trust, and then I followed it with the Earls Conquest, which was Georgian, which is different, but yet very much the same. Yeah. And so by doing that, I could kind of swap things up a bit, but I really need that break. My brain will just go, okay, you've done Regency, let's set that, you need to do something. So yeah, there's different research, because you can go into modern and go, oh, less research, yay, I don't have to look up every word to see if it's Regency appropriate. No. But then, okay, I'm working on one, I've got about 2 chapters that I'm playing with, where Lizzie's a vet, and I was a vet tech at one time, so I do, and I've was around animals extensively, as a kid and through uni, college. And I thought this will be easy. And then I got to this one thing and I went, okay, I'm going to double check, because it's been a long time. So I have to go look up and double check my terminology and stuff. So while you always think, oh, writing modern is going to be so much easier, but you're trading, I think, one type of research for another.
Yeah.
So and I love Pinterest, because you can just kind of go, okay, I want an outfit, or I need this, or I want this location, and you can pretty much pick whatever you want. So I always have mood boards on there, which helps. Yeah, it's really not the same as like trying to. Yeah, and I mean, I always have someone to back me up on the Regency stuff. There was one I could have sworn I looked it up, and Carol sent it back to me in the first chapter going, yeah, this isn't Regency. And I'm like, oh. But it happens. But this last one was a lot harder, I think, to write, because I'm coming back from a back injury. And so I would sit, and for a while, all I could do was stand leaning on my counter, actually right where I'm sitting. And I could maybe get 200 to 500 words at a time. And I think that's why now she goes, wait, you used this twice in one sentence. You did that. And I'm going, oh, I thought I caught all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
They both present their own challenges, but I do enjoy swapping that up. I think it helps my brain not get stagnant, I guess.
Yeah. I've never written contemporary Jaff, so I was just curious, because obviously with the Regency, the conflict's easy in the Regency Jaff, because you only have to have some bad weather and you can keep the main characters apart for ages. With distance and the fact that the only communication method was writing a letter that took time to get there, and it's easier to create the conflict in the historical ones, and it's a lot harder to create it in modern ones. So how do you deal with that? How do you create conflict in your contemporaries?
Oh boy. Some of it's just waiting for it to come into my head, to be honest. I mean, that's always been the way I've written to an extent. I've talked to people who say they have to plot every last bit of it out. And if I do that, the story's done in my head. I can't write it. So to an extent, sometimes I know where it has to go, but it depends on what the conflict is. If you take like the wedding planners, since those are, all four of them are modern, and there's always going to be something in that respect. The first, I always knew that the child would be the conflict. That would end up becoming your point of conflict. It was just when it fell in and how it was resolved, I guess, that I wasn't going to know what was going on. And then from there, trying to swap it up. It's a challenge to me not to stick this horrible villain in there. I mean, I think I'm so used to doing that with the Regencies that it's like, okay, who's my nasty piece of work? And so trying to challenge myself with some of them to make them their own, conflict, where, I mean, we all know Elizabeth's stubborn to a fault. So trying to put her own stubbornness, that her beliefs, that, whatever in there, I've tried. I don't know that I've ever completely succeeded. And I've been trying to really work on doing more of that. So my conflicts aren't always some bad guy coming back or some bad guy coming in, bad woman, whatever, and messing things up. But that is a challenge as to who or what the conflict will be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And try not to keep it someone different if it is an outside source. Because it's really easy to make it Wickham or whoever, especially Wickham coming back. It's really easy, but
yeah. Do you have a favorite of all your books? Do you have a real favorite, or are they like your children you can't possibly say?
Ooh, I'm trying to think based on what I've done. I mean, it, like, sometimes if you go by because of this, or, like different ones, I would say, but I've always kind of been the most proud of the Earls Conquest.
Okay.
I guess because it was more of an original story. Like, yes. But yeah, That one's always kind of been one of my favorites. Since Rebecca was an original character and I got to make up a lot of characters and have my own characters for that one, it's nice to be able to kind of step outside of that box and play with it. And I could, even though I was still like kind of in that box, it was outside of it. And I really enjoyed that. And I love Rebecca. She's so much fun to write. She is very Elizabeth Bennet, but in a different, more in your face kind of way, I think.
Yeah, no, I absolutely loved that book. But that does lead me on to another question I have, which you've almost touched on anyway, which is, outside of Jane Austen's characters, do you have a favourite of your characters that you've had in your books who interacts with them, either in a modern or a Regency? Have you got a character you've created that you like, that's the one I really, really am proud of and I really like? And
Rebecca, I love Rebecca. The Dowager Countess. I'm waiting for you to go, how did you say that again? That's kind of a running joke.
Hey, I still haven't got over the fact you ended up getting OCD to follow me on Twitter. You probably don't remember that. You put something on Twitter about me measuring out the wine when I was pouring it for you and Jane Otway, and the OCD Society followed me as a result of it.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh dear.
3 wine glasses down that we're all gonna have. It was you, me, and wasn't it Jane Otway? And we're
Jane
all
Otway, yeah.
pouring. And
yeah. I was trying to be fair.
I know. But okay, original character. Other than that, I don't know that, like, if you go modern, Charlie and the Wedding Planners, although I don't know that you could call her original. I mean, she is in a way. She's based on Charlotte Lucas originally, but she's really not. She's very much herself.
Mm-hmm.
But in some ways, I identify with her a lot.
What do you think? That's interesting. Do you think that had Charlotte Lucas been in the modern day, she would have been more, I don't know, sassy and just more career-minded? Because I mean, it's irrelevant to the Regency, obviously.
Yeah, I do. It wasn't
an option, but from what we know of her, the way how honestly and she would talk to Elizabeth, and how she knew her, like she knew her and wasn't afraid to tell her what she thought.
I do like to make her sassy in modern. I don't know. I think she would be very career-minded, but considering, one of her big things is I'm not romantic. And she really never was looking to fall in love. That was the one thing. Charlie really was. She would act like she wasn't, but she had been heartbroken.
Yeah.
You could make that into, we really and truly know so little about Charlotte, like as far as a backstory. Yeah. She was older compared to Elizabeth.
Yeah.
So you could give her almost any backstory that she had been heartbroken, which is why she says she wasn't romantic and not looking for love. So you could do so many things. She's one of those almost not completely blank slates, but you could change her in so many little ways. But as far as modern, I could see her almost being kind of like an asexual character. Mm-hmm. Like, just very career-minded, not looking for a relationship, not interested in it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I do enjoy her sassy, though. I think it adds.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I've always some comedic kind of thing. I don't know. It's hard not to put in there. My daughter read my new one and she was like, I love Richard. She loves Colonel Fitzwilliam and everything. And she's like, is he like that in Pride and Prejudice? And because she's only read Northanger Abbey. And I'm like, no, he really doesn't have much of a part. But yeah, they're characters that are fun to give you that little bit of levity to break a serious bit.
Yeah, I agree. The other thing I wanted to ask you was about your covers, because I know that certainly in the early days, I think it was in the early days, you used some of your own artwork on your covers, didn't you?
I did.
I mean, you don't seem to do that anymore. Was that like a conscious decision that you were going to move away from that and go for a more traditional, certainly with the Jaff Regency, more traditional cover?
I think I'd always liked the artwork on the covers, like the portraits. I did to start. I mean, it was such a whim to start publishing. I had really never planned to. And so the image that's on the cover of Rain and Retribution, when I posted, it was a banner at the bottom of in my, what they call a signature. So with every post that I made, I had like a banner in it that had the name of the story I was posting. And so that was the banner image. I took it, and then when I went to publish, I think I wanted that continuity between the banner image and the cover. And so I took the same items that I had in that banner image, which was, it was a book of my grandfather's. I think it's a book of Longfellow. He wrote in the margins, which is, you know, kind of the sentimental part of it. And a rose that was from when my mother died. And I stacked them, and the black background is, I was in art school at the time. It's actually one of my art portfolios that I put behind it as a background, put a bunch of lamps and used my DSLR and just took a bunch of shots, and then played with the coloring and played with filters and to see what I could come up with. And I kept that. Now that I think about it, I did have a different banner image that I started with. It was just that had become it later. Anyway, a matter of chance, when I was taking watercolor at the time. I love watercolor. I've always loved watercolor. And I had done watercolor in high school, and when I got my biology degree, I took a lot of art classes until I realized I was going to be in college forever unless I stopped taking art classes. And I was taking figure drawing, and she allowed us to do another medium, and so I brought in my watercolors. And so when I went to get my graphic design degree and we had to do a specific, I went back. It was an old friend. And so I went back, and a lot of the description and everything, you know, that was actually very easy, because I could go back and say, I could describe how I would paint something when I had her working. And so when it came down to the descriptions of her art, it was how the watercolor instructor liked me, and she liked my work. And it was how she was describing my work at the time. And so when it came down to picking a cover, I just took one of the paintings that I had done that, was it that semester? I think it was, or this, no, it was that semester. It was still, the image of it, you can see, if you have the whole image, you can still see the art tape, where it's taped down to the board. And so it was still taped to the board. And then I just I cleaned up my palette, so it didn't look like, watercolor palettes are just like smeared gobbledygook messes, because you're mixing paints and you've got water that bleeds it all together, but then you usually end up using that too. And I kind of took a rag and cleaned up all the messy parts and put my art palette on the edge. And that was the cover to my second book. And then with Unwavering Trust, that was a photo that's actually behind the Ely Cathedral. It's a garden. They have a tea room, the Almond Ring, and there's a little garden back there that's just really pretty in the summertime. And I took the photo back there. And I added a filter to it. I've thought about adding an Elizabeth walking through the path, but there were several where they're walking through paths in the book, and so it just seemed to fit. After that, I don't know, I liked the idea of a portrait. Sorry, I have a cat trying to invade the camera space. And I just, for a portrait that I like, I don't even remember where I found that one. And you know, now that I think about it, it was a Pinterest board. When I was looking for ideas for gowns and stuff, that was one of them. And I used that. And
do you always do your own covers? Do you always do your own covers? You make your own covers, yeah? Yeah,
I mean, they've changed like methods, and I might see a cover and go, oh, I like that, and then kind of not as, you know, do it like how I would do it kind of thing. I did that with Undoing, where I had the image of the fire on the bottom, and then the flourish, swirl, whatever, kind of cut to that. But yeah, I always do my own covers. It's just where I get my artwork. I'm looking to do something different with this one, but I haven't quite figured that out yet.
Yeah. Do you still do artwork? Because you still make time to do that?
I'd love to have the time to like
I know.
my watercolor.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, I can't remember the last time well, no, I probably could think of the last time I broke out my watercolors. I think my children have broken them out more than I have. I just threaten them with their lives. That doesn't take much, $14 tube that's this big. And I'm like, you use the whole tube, I'm going to hurt you. So, but yeah, no, as much as I'd love to say that I did, not really.
Well, I'm sure it's something you'll get back to.
Oh, I'm sure I'll pick
We do
some.
different phases, don't we, in lives? I mean, when the kids are younger, then we do less, and then when they're grown up and older, we do more. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll probably break it out at some point.
Well, I mean, I love, I mean, these two in particular, I don't even know if these are the current covers, but they're the covers when I bought them. But this one I love.
Oh, yeah, I like that one. I did.
And as you know, the Earls Conquest, I mean, I love the story, but I love the book too. But I have a real soft spot for unwrapping Mr. Darcy, and it's on my Kindle. It's not on my desk, but I love that cover. And it's not just because there's a black cat on it. I just think it's a fantastic contemporary cover, and it goes so well with the title, and I just love it.
That one was a lot of fun. I mean,
how did you come up with that as a cover? I mean, how did you make it? How did you put the images together?
that was a lot of searching on Shutterstock. One of them, the girl's legs with one package, was a Christmas card kind of image that they had on Shutterstock. And then I found the black cat. And from there, I started with that. And I was like, okay, how do I make this Lizzie? And of course, in the book, she adores pink. So I changed the color. The skirt's red. The original skirt's red. So I gave her a pink and white, it was red and white polka dots. So I kept the polka dots, although sort of. I made the skirt pink and then I put new polka dots on in the same pattern. And redid the outline and changed the color on the package. There were like little bitty things, little tweaks to make it more. And it's kind of a weird filter that I used for the shoes to make them look like that snake skin, for the shoes in the book. And then added Grunt, the black cat. His eyes are actually, I had to put little dots behind his eyes because they're clear in the original image. It's like a transparency that you drop in. So I had to, because otherwise you could see her legs through his eyes, which was kind of bizarre. And I really liked how that was going. So from there, it was trying to kind of make it look good on a cover. I needed a couple more packages. So I found another, I think it was a similar artist, and got that. And then the snowflakes came off of, I think, that one too, because I just took one of the snowflakes and just dropped them in.
You make it sound so easy. I mean, I couldn't begin with images and things.
It was time consuming. Trying to get all of that just so it took some time, and I played with it a lot. Mm-hmm. And that was when I started. I used to take and I'd make like a Kindle cover, and then I'd make the paperback cover, and now I make the Kindle cover, and then I might drop in the front cover on the paperback, but everything else is copied and pasted from one to the other, because I had to. If I hadn't done that, I would have lost my mind trying to do it. Like what? By the time you do the audiobook 3 times, no. Yeah. So I think actually for the audiobook, I just took the Kindle cover and dropped it into the file and then sized it. I couldn't, that was a lot. I mean, I love the cover. And I get, like you, I get a lot of compliments on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of crazy making to make. It was fun, but that's the thing with graphic design. You'll do something and you'll mess it up and you're like, no, and then you start to do it. And then the worst is when you're trying to undo and you're trying to find where you did it. Like you're just hitting Command Z over and over again. And then it stops because there's only so many undos that you can do. And you're like, no.
You sound a little bit like Ada when she's doing our covers. Oh no, it wasn't that version. Oh. It's like,
yeah, you're like, okay. undo this, undo it, do it. You do it, you
Yeah.
know.
Oh, no, I didn't want that to happen.
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah. And I've been doing that with the one I'm playing with. Because I found an image of a Regency dress man, and then I've got a window that I took in like a background, and I'm trying to kind of all piece it together. It's pretty complicated. I don't like it so far. I think honestly it's the font for the cover. I think if I found the right font, it might work, but it's hard. I found an image I really liked and couldn't use, and I think that's like.
So, do you sometimes have that happen though with a cover, that you're not keen on it to begin with, and eventually when all the little pieces come together, like the fonts and things, that then you find that you do love it?
Yeah, I mean the fonts and everything sometimes, or just adding a little thing like the unwrapping Mr. Darcy went through different phases. I mean, with the end, I looked at it and went, it's just plain. And then I found the snowflakes and added those in. I went, okay, there we go. Yeah. There's usually something that you almost have to finish it, even if it's just like, which one was it? There was one, I think it was the first wedding planners, and I just couldn't figure out what it was. And I sent it to Maria Grace, because sometimes we'll bounce covers off of each other. And she looks at me and she goes, try this. And it was nothing more than like a little bit of a gradient from the top and the bottom. And I was like, oh, everything pops. It's really odd. Like it can be, you know, a flourish. It can be what have you. It just, there's usually something that'll make the cover seem finished.
Yeah. And talking of what you're currently working on, obviously, you know, not asking you to talk about it because of spoilers. But you are working on something that's almost done.
Yep.
Do you have an idea when it's coming out?
Probably at the point I'm at by the time, because with all of the issues getting this one written and the fact that I was injured in the move and everything else, Carol and I are trying to be really vigilant about the editing. We don't want just little things slipping through. And so she's gone through it for a cold read. And I kind of knew before she sent it back to me, she was like, the end's too long. And I was like, ah. So I had to kind of rework and do a bit of rewriting, which I don't know that I've ever, like I've had to chop a bunch of stuff in the middle or here or there, but I don't know that I've ever really had to do a, like kind of a rewrite, which it wasn't much of one, but, and now she's going through it. She does in sets of 3s. So she's on the second set of chapters. And then she wants to just give it one last read through for plot before I send it on to proofreaders. So we're right there. I'm working on the cover. My blurb is horrible. I need to completely redo it.
Blurbs are always hard.
I sent it to her because when I first made a comment, she goes, what's the story about? And I said, I don't have a blurb yet. She goes, you mean I have to wait 2 weeks and you can't even tell me what it's about? And I was like, sorry. And I came up with one, and then she read it. She goes, that's the backstory. I went, sorry. I'm trying not to give any. I'm really bad about that. Like I'll do a blurb and she'll go, let me see it. And then she'll mark it all up and she starts adding things. So like for Undoing, there were things I did not want in the blurb because I was afraid of giving too much away. And so I sent it to her. She's putting some of it in and I'm like, you know, I mean, and we go back and forth like that though. I think that's kind of, and she's like, whatever. Sorry, my nose is running. But yeah, it's just, it's blurbs are just painful, I think. I write it and I'm like, and then I wrote it and I remember I put it on Amazon and it started to sell and like, or it started going and I looked at it and went, man, the blurb, and Mira, I love Mira. Mira put in her interview, I think it was Mira, sorry if it's not, but she says, don't read the blurb, buy the book. I went, okay, I need to rewrite my blurb.
Yeah, I think so. That sounds like it.
Yeah, I did. I rewrote it after that. It still had some similarities, but I rewrote the blurb, and I think it was much easier at that point. I think sometimes trying to get it initially out is kind of hectic. But yeah, try to turn this.
What are we not seeing?
He's like zombieing past as he goes to the door. Sorry.
I've asked all my questions and they've obviously inspired a few others. Is there anything else you would like to chat about with regard to the Jaff? And look at your face. No.
See that.
Coffee.
That's like opening a huge ball of worms.
Is it?
I don't know. I just felt like saying that. I don't know. It's still early here, at least for me.
I appreciate that.
I'm still working on my coffee.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate your talking to me today and answering all my questions. Thank you very much. It's been really nice because we actually, funnily enough, when we used to meet up, didn't talk Jaff that very much, did we? I mean, we talked a little bit about it, but we never...
It was more about what we were writing. What we were writing at the time, an experience we were having or whatever. But usually we talked more about, we spoke more of like what was going on. Like if we were Regency week, what we were doing tomorrow,
Yeah.
what we had done.
It wasn't about our inspirations or where we came from when we found Jaff or anything. So it's been really good to talk to you about that.
I have that one where I kind of fangirled when I realized that you were splat, but you know, I messaged Amy after she
giving away all my secrets here.
Yeah. Sorry. Amy, what was it? Not Amy. Elizabeth y'all mentioned pen and ink last time, and she kind of went, oh my gosh, and I just sat there and laughed. And
I was talking about A Fair Prospect, but I didn't mention the title, and she was like suddenly realizing the story I meant, that she'd actually read it online all those years ago. Yeah. It was actually very funny.
And I messaged her, I said, don't worry about it, I've done the same thing. It was just so funny because at the time, I don't know, I mean, like I said, we all kind of had usernames. And sometimes that translates over, and I had read A Fair Prospect on pen and ink, and then I remember I bought it after I joined Austen Variations because I had this noble idea of trying to read a little bit of everybody's work, which was started, never quite finished. I usually get too engrossed in what I'm doing to read someone else's, and I was reading it and went, oh, I've read this numerous times. So yeah, but it was kind of funny. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, well, it's been lovely to see you. Lovely to talk to you.
Yes.
Lovely to see your cats.
Yeah, sorry about them.
Don't apologize. I love cats.
They're like Lady Catherine. They have to have their bit of the conversation. I'm just glad I kept Evie from because otherwise she probably would have come in, sniffed the laptop, or turned her.
Yeah. As they do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'll let you go and enjoy your day. Drink some more coffee as it's morning with you, and I'll face my evening.
Yeah, go open some rosé, right?
Maybe not on a Monday.
Not on a Monday?
Maybe not on a Monday. Trying to be good.
You're trying to be good.
Well, you've got to try.
Yeah.
You've got to try.
I feel like I really succeed very much. Mondays are usually, if I open something that night, it's, oh my gosh, the kids have made me insane.
That's fair enough. See, my kids aren't here, so they're grown up, so they don't push me in the way they used to. Anyway, I'll let you go. Been lovely to see you. We'll catch up soon.
Yep.
And good luck with the new book.
Thank you. Just have to get it finished. With editing.
Yeah, I know. Okay, well, thank you to L.L. Diamond, and as I say, this is for the Austen Through the Ages feature, and we hope you enjoyed it. Bye.